Hello YouTubers, Liver Flush Man here. Today I'm going to talk about the top 3 causes of fatty liver disease, fibrosis, and cirrhosis of the liver. The top 3 causes. Number 1 is alcohol. Especially hard alcohol, ladies and gentlemen, is very, very hard on the liver. Hard alcohol causes the liver to develop into fatty liver even faster, and fibrosis and cirrhosis, the scarring of the liver tissue, because that alcohol affects the liver, causes it to become fatty liver. It swells, it enlarges, it inflames, and then shrinks and enlarges. It's constantly inflammation, which causes the scar tissue to form. Alcohol fatty liver disease is called alcoholic fatty liver disease. Non-alcoholic fatty liver disease is caused not from alcohol, and that will be either number 2 and number 3 are pretty close to each other of the top causes. Number 2, I would say, is pharmaceuticals. Pharmaceutical drugs. Certain pharmaceutical drugs are been known to be very toxic on the liver, including Tylenol and stuff like that is very hard on the liver, which causes fatty liver disease, all right? Because it's causing, and it causes fibrosis and cirrhosis because the liver is inflaming. Like I said, it swells up and then shrinks back and swells up, and this causes the scar tissue to form. So fatty liver is the first stage, then fibrosis, then cirrhosis of the liver, then necrosis and liver failure, but we don't want to know about that. We want to deal with what we can reverse now and what's easy to reverse. Fatty liver is very easy to reverse. Alcoholic fatty liver disease, the number 1 top cause of fatty liver, alcohol, is the hardest to reverse, and it takes the longest because the liver has been damaged really harshly, all right? So pharmaceutical drugs, depending on what pharmaceutical drugs you're on, maybe not all of them have liver effects causing a liver disease or the progression of a liver disease, but many of them are known to cause liver problems, ladies and gentlemen. And number three is okay, we got the alcohol, we got the pharmaceutical drugs, and then we also got the fatty foods, ladies and gentlemen. Fatty foods, deep fried foods, trans fatty acids from frying the foods, like deep fried foods causes the liver to become fatty. The tissue in the cells become fatty, and over 10% of the liver tissue is comprised of fat cells, it is known as fatty liver disease, and that's the first stage of liver disease. So that is also caused, and all that fatty foods and stuff, and all the foods and pharmaceuticals and all this can develop, and that's what develops the liver stones, which become gallstones. They're dumped into the gallbladder. Some form in the gallbladder, but most are created in the liver and then dumped into the gallbladder. So fatty foods and all this stuff, this all relates to liver stones, and liver stones is probably the number 1, but it is caused through alcoholism, excessive fatty foods, and pharmaceutical drugs. All this interplays and causes the liver stones. The liver stones can all be traced back to liver stones, and if you've had ultrasound technology done on you to see if you have stones, just because it didn't show up on the ultrasound doesn't mean you don't have hundreds or even thousands of stones. All it means is that those stones have not become calcified, they have not become hardened, they have not become old and calcified through rising bilirubin levels in the liver. All right, so if your doctor says you don't have stones because they didn't show up on ultrasound, that doesn't mean squat, ladies and gentlemen. What it means is that they have not become calcified yet to the level that they're old and calcified, which is still a better sign than if they were calcified, because once they become calcified, generally means they're older and and it's more damaging to the liver. They've been there for a long time and they're really old. And those calcified stones are the ones that sink, ladies and gentlemen. And that's why you hear the doctor say, well, these liver stones that are created, these stones produced from a liver flesh are just made up of the olive oil and all this because they float and all this. Well, stones comprised of mostly cholesterol is the number 1. Cholesterol, protein, bile salts, bile pigments. So the cholesterol is actually a fat, it's a lipid, and that also floats. So the different kinds of stones you have in your liver can be calcified to just fresh stones that are usually in color. They're lighter in color, yellow to green, and then as soon as they get into the darker greens and brown and black, that's when they're calcified, that's when they're old, and that's when they sink. And when you do a liver flush, you will get some out that sink, some that float. You'll get out a bunch of different kinds, and there's generally layers within the liver. You start off with the small gravelly stuff, all right, brown, yellow, and light green, all right, mostly light green and stuff, and yellow, and then you get deeper, and the stones get bigger and darker, and this is a general phases of the liver. But anyways, this video was on the top 3 causes. We got alcoholism, number 1. We got number 2, pharmaceutical drugs, and number 3, fatty fried foods that have a lot of trans fatty acids and fat in the foods. And then all of those together produce liver stones, which is can be all traced back to all of this unhealthy alcohol, pharmaceuticals and everything, is the liver stones. And that's what we need to address, is get rid of these liver stones and get the liver rejuvenating. It's regenerative. You get these out, these toxins go out, and your liver progresses, all right? So the top 3 causes: alcoholism, number 1, pharmaceutical drugs, number 2, and number 3, fried fatty foods with trans fatty acids. Ladies and gentlemen, that is it for the top causes of fatty liver, fibrosis, and cirrhosis of the liver. That's Liver Flush Man. Thank you.